So for years now, people have been saying there aren't any good films out there. And I never really believed that statement because for every one person that ever said there aren't any good films out there, I would end up finding something that they liked eventually. And I've realized that those good movies that we seek, they live in the void of obscurity. It takes a little bit more effort to find them because the mass marketing push is saved for films with big budgets and big names. That's okay. That's just how the industry works. But more than ever, films have needed movies in theaters more than ever. And because of that, we've had a pretty good streak, but I would argue that that streak has existed already. It just seems that right now theaters are in a place where they require anything they can grab. They need any scraps that they can find. Little do they know that some of these scraps are actually little crumbs of gold. Thankfully, because of it, now we've got films like Obsession and Dolly and Redux Redux. Films that are some of my favorites this year. As I'm going through my Blu-ray and DVD collection and reviewing these films, there are films that I just remember going, wow, why don't people speak on this film anymore, or if at all? But that just means that it's up to us to find these films and remind the naysayers and the nihilists and the cynics that they do in fact exist. No greater example than today's movie by the great director Brandon Cronenberg, obviously son of David Cronenberg, but I rarely use the word nepotism with him because, you know, it implies that they got there without talent. And while it may be true that he would have gotten there regardless of talent, this guy is talented. Just like we had classics in the 80s and the 90s, I think that these films can speak for themselves now. And one of those films is, in fact, Possessor. And the reason that I love this film, the reason I think this film is so above and beyond so much of the films that already get spoken of, is because this film is such an embodiment of itself. It is obviously very much inspired by his dad. But somehow if you watch his dad's work and you watch Brandon's work, he's made it his own. He's made it, and it does not take away from what he's created. Possessor is a crazy sci-fi existential horror film that explores the ideas of like disembodiment and identity in a world where you could literally body hop at a moment's notice. Now, this technology is used by high-level assassins. This is not your typical sort of, you know, fast-paced hand-to-hand combat assassin film that you would expect with the word assassin. This is a very grounded yet somehow dystopian, cyberpunk-focused. On occasion, it's visually cosmic. It's viscerally cosmic, and it's existential, and it's horrific and grounded in its violence. But the real horror is how it explores identity in ways that I don't think any other film has truly captured. The setup is already pretty crazy. All right, so this corporation of hitmen, they accept contracts, and then they hijack bodies, full human bodies, like you and myself with full consciousness. And they use these bodies to create a narrative around the hit that they're about to complete, to make it look like it was a suicide or make it look like it was just a natural cause. It's kind of genius the way that this world and these rules exist in this corporation. And you have a character who is already detached from her life. Like, she is completely void of any joy. You see her, and this is why I think this film explores this better than most, because a lot of the moments that create this picture in your mind of this character are silent moments. And it's not a movie without dialogue. It very much has dialogue. But it's in the moments when words aren't spoken that it like hits you in the face. The way that a character disassociates in the middle of like a corporate conversation. Biggest example is her being with her husband at the dinner table, and her husband has his friends over who all work for this sort of corporate office thing, and they're having corporate speak. You know how people kind of just, they don't talk about anything else except work. They go home, they talk to their friends who they go to work with about work, and then when they're about to say goodbye at the door, they talk about the next day and what's going to happen at work, even though they're about to say goodbye. This is the kind of world that it is. And she disassociates at the dinner table completely. And it's so fucking relatable, because I feel like I disassociate in many ways in the middle of conversations that I think feel disingenuous. And even when she's having sex, completely disassociated. And as a mother, even in her trying to have natural conversation with her son, completely disassociated. But the only time that she finds this explicit joy is when she is doing a job, being in the body of these other people whose lives she's only going to embody for 2 to 3 days. And you see her take pleasure in the violence, so much so that they'll give her a gun to commit the hit, but she doesn't use a gun. She always uses a blunt or sharp object so that then she could feel the blood between her fingertips. It's as if in every frame and in every hit and in every moment that she is out of her body and in someone else's, she is trying to recalibrate her senses to feel something other than her own reality. The sad part is that everyone else's reality is corporate. Everybody else's reality is superficial. Everybody else's reality is marketable. And so she has no escape. She has no escape. Even where they live, the way that everything's shot, it looks bland, but also brutalist. It looks... But even in its blandness, it still has an aesthetic that serves the narrative. Like the first establishing shot of where she lives with her family, or where her husband lives with her family, because she doesn't live with them. She can't. She feels like for her mental health, she has to stay away and disconnect instead of forcing this reality with her husband that she is married to, which is really interesting. But even in the establishing shot of the apartment complex, every apartment looks the same. Every garage is painted white. There's no cars outside. Everything is aseptic and clean as hell. And yet somehow every frame composed in this movie feels like a direct commentary to our reality, where we are all seeking a sense of nuance and expression and realization. Like this movie is the best example of derealization. And I don't mean to get personal, but derealization is something that I've had on a pretty extreme level. A lot of us statistically actually endure and have experienced derealization, that moment of complete disconnect from yourself and from others. And there are severe cases where people can derealize for 6 months, 12 months to a year to 3 years. And I've had a case where it was years. And it's really interesting to see a film fully dive into that sense of disconnect without beating you over the head with monologue. Just pure visual aesthetic, set dressing, people. It's truly incredible what Brandon has done in this movie to unsettle you with how realistic yet hyper realized of a setting he has, right? Like, we don't walk around and everything's like super brutalist and very stoic, none of that, but you can walk around and pick these things up. And then in this world that is years in the future, it's not specified, but it's in the future, in a very grounded future, very realistic and accessible, and almost feels like it's 6 years away tops, down to even like the technology that they use and the procedures that are being done on people when they take their bodies and are stolen for these assignments and these contracts. It's all very grounded. The technology looks grounded, very real, very auxiliary, yet somehow the concept is high sci-fi. It is high concept sci-fi. It does remind me of films like Existenz, Perfect Blue, Videodrome. It has those bits, but there is this yet somehow is a perfect addition to that subgenre of body horror, disassociative horror, psychological horror. It's the best version of those films, in my opinion, and I love all those films, but there's just something so realized about this movie and how it tells its story, and most importantly, the tragic fucking ending, which I'm not going to spoil. Considering the arc that we start off with our main character leading into the end, it's a very realistic and fitting ending that is still very shocking when you realized what just fucking happened. There are nuances in this, in the dialogue, where something is presented earlier and then repeated later on in a different way that signifies a change in the character in a way that is so sort of satiating, because you get it. That is, it's not obscure, it's just subtle, and you're like, okay, holy shit, you did that, like, in the writing. Then we lean into these ethereal visuals, like when she is moving from her body, her subconscious is moving from her body to another. And we have these very, very much practical, almost 70s influenced giallo visuals, where the neon colors are huge and the body is sort of decomposing with what almost like what's the fucking word? When you try to make, like, wet clay. Yes, I was going to say, like, when you try to make a mold of your wet clay is what I'm thinking. It just these visuals put together, and then the synthtronic industrial score in the background. I mean, this movie is fucking genius. Every little bit of it is just perfectly composed, perfectly thought out. And when I think about this movie, and I think about how we speak about Hereditary, and we speak about The Witch, and we speak about all these other big, grandiose hallmarks in horror, I feel like Possessor should be one spoken under that breath along with those films. Not because of it is a scary, right? But because it deals with things that are a staple in horror, which is identity. And as of recent, I don't think a film does it better. I don't. Especially displaying dissociation, derealization, fighting for subconscious, and also fighting for your own identity. Like, how many of us, and let me try to explain this, how many of us have grown up and then realized that our identity is not something we created. It is product placement somewhere else. Either your parents implemented something in you that you never questioned, your faith gave you something that you never questioned, or your friends influenced something in you that you never questioned, and comfort set in, right? There's this sort of sense of autonomy, and there's a sense of autonomy that kind of kicks in, and then you just become this person. But you didn't pick and choose every part of your identity. You didn't, in fact, choose those things. They came to you, and somehow you either said, all right, this is good enough, I'm going to fit it in here, in this little box of identity, or I'm going to throw this away and just leave this little part. And this movie deals with the fragmentation of your identity and your personality. Like, how do you fit? How much of this is you? How much of this shit is actually you as a person and not something else? Which then amplifies the whole sort of weird drone feel that this thing has. Man, this movie is fucking, I feel like this movie was so ahead of its time, and it came and went, and I want to put you on if you haven't seen it, because I the more people can speak on this movie and appreciate it for what it is doing, then the more we can prove that, hey, good movies exist. You just have to work a little harder to find them. That's it. Anyway, that is my review for today. I hope you guys enjoyed me speaking on this, and if you haven't seen it, please go see it. If you have seen it, please tell me how much you love it or hate it. I'm open to whatever your opinion is, of course. And anyway, I'm gonna fuck off, because guess what I'm seeing again tonight. Anyway, guys, that's it, and as always, I'll see you at the movies.